were born in Bridlington, weren't you?
No. I was born in Huddersfield. So I was talking to Dad about this.
Yeah.
I was born in 81, and Dad started teaching at Northcliffe in 81 with your dad.
Oh, I thought you were born after that, way after that.
No.
That's ace.
So that's what was quite poignant, I suppose, because so if I was born in 81 and Dad just started working with John
At Northcliffe.
And then it'll have been, when was this album recorded? 22.
It feels like a long time ago.
It was 2 years ago.
It was only 2 years ago.
Was it
2 years ago in October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would have been 41.
Yeah.
41, something like that. Quite special for me to be a part of that album, knowing that in 81, when Dad started working with John, which is basically the reason I'm here, I wasn't even a person at that point. So
no, I loved the fact that your dad was on the album.
Oh,
for the same reason.
Yeah.
And it's that we're the only two people in that band that will know what it's like to have your dad in the same band as you.
Yeah.
It's ace, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was really special having him there. We sort of made a couple of days of it as well. He came down and we had a little chat about the charts and the ones that he was playing on, and he was like, I don't know if I can. Because Dad's not like a pro French horn player anymore. He picks it up to do his. He's in Hull Philharmonic Orchestra and he practices for that. But playing in a big band's very different from playing in an orchestra. So he's like, I don't know, how do I phrase this? What do I do here? All that kind of thing. So yeah, it was great. It was great to switch roles for a sec and just say, I'm probably going to phrase this like this, or we'll do this articulation here, that kind of thing. And then playing, I think the first chart that we recorded with him on was Hello and Goodbye, and there's only one French horn on that, and it's him. And he'd never done any of the rehearsals. He just came in.
Just rocked up at the studio.
On the day.
Nailed it.
And and I think I was playing lead on that one.
Brilliant.
So, and some of the harmonies and stuff, he was playing like the octave below. So it was really special.
Nice.
Looking over and seeing him there.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's that. Like you say, 81, your dad rocks up at Northcliffe. So was that your dad's first proper teaching post? Because it was my dad's first proper teaching post.
Right, I don't...
But my dad would have been there a couple of years before that, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't want to say yes, but maybe.
I just remember them two just messing about all the time and having a right laugh.
Well, this is... Apparently, his nickname for John was Action Man, right?
Why?
And he said that one day they'd had rehearsals for something or other after school, and they finished the rehearsals on the way out of the school, and they saw this fire in this classroom, like this little fire. Someone had started a fire with textbooks in the centre of the classroom. That's the type of school you were dealing with.
Yeah.
And apparently John just went straight into the school and just stamped it out. Call the fire brigade. Just straight in there, I'll just sort that out.
It was a rough school by all accounts.
Yeah.
Dad had his car nicked once.
By someone
just
from
up the road from the school, but he suspects it's students because they would have recognised his car. He was somewhere else in Conisbrough having a meeting. And about 2 weeks later, some students came and said, Mr. Ellis, we found your car. And I don't know if did you go to Northcliffe much as a kid? Do you remember?
No, I don't think I ever went.
Oh, right. I loved going there. I used to go there for rehearsals and stuff because my mum was working. So I'd have to go to rehearsals. So me and my sister would just be wandering around the school on a Sunday afternoon or whatever. And it was really cool because they had these quadrangles with rabbits in. So the whole school was like in these quadrangles, and you'd walk round and there'd be like a garden or a greenhouse or some rabbits. And but out the front of the school, there was the playing fields, and at the end of the playing fields, there was a cliff that just dropped off, and it was called the Crags.
Right.
So it was like
I've heard
some
that
crags.
before.
So Dad's car was found burnt out at the bottom of these crags a few weeks after it got stolen. Yeah. And another story he's got is when I think a kid shot him with an air rifle.
Oh, ace. Get me to that school immediately.
But that was, the 80s in Conisbrough, But that's where it all started, all this DJA stuff. It all kind of started there, And then, obviously, I remember, we won't talk about the way in which I met you, because it's very funny, and this is a family show. But it was funny. But all I will say is, you're one of the funniest people I know, and the first time I met you when you were 2 or 3 years old, you were funny then, and you've been funny throughout, and you're still funny now.
Funny looking.
And you're still daft as well. We've just done like it was a gig. We've just had your wedding 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Very musical wedding.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of the best weddings I've been to, and I've been to a lot of weddings, purely because it was just so much fun and the music and everything. But what struck me was your brother did a best man speech, which, by the way, Joe, if you're watching, best man speech on the planet ever.
I'll send him this when we're done.
Absolutely smashed it. He delivered it without any notes. It was super funny. It was emotional as well, and true, and just no notes, delivered like he, does it every day sort of thing. But one thing that came out of that for me that I didn't know about you was that even as a young kid playing trumpet, and we'll get into why you played trumpet and joining DJA, was that you practiced a lot as a young kid. Now, most young kids don't do that. They end up starting to practice a bit more seriously when they get a bit older. That's what I did anyway. So where do you think that came from, and why did you do that?
I think it sort of came out of frustration, to be honest, because, as I know all instruments have their cruxes and problems and stuff like that, but as a trumpet player, you always fighting with stuff to do with your chops, with your lips, or how your face is feeling that day, all that kind of thing. And even when it's quite important when you're young to get the enjoyment out of it. So I think I think I had a teacher once that sort of said, if I couldn't play this piece, it was like, you've got to do some more practice at this, and your lips will feel much better if you keep playing, if you keep practicing. And I think that sort of stuck with me a little bit, and I took it a bit far sometimes. I think. Well,
you took your trumpet on holiday with you.
Yeah,
that's what Joey said anyway.
I think at that point it was like I had an exam coming up.
Okay.
And we'd only gone away to France for like a week, and I took it with me and took a mute, and oh God, I can't even
remember the rest of the campers, basically.
Yeah, no, I had like a mute, to shut myself up, but yeah, it was. But I went through a weird period because I practiced quite a lot, and then I got this. My dad started up this jazz band at school.
Is this before you joined Dija?
Yeah. Right. So this is sort of where it all spawned from.
So how old were you when you started music?
When I started playing trumpet, I think it was about 8.
So that's young. Like that. Yeah, that's my daughter's age now. Yeah, that is young. Is that the first instrument you tried?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It was weird. I got it completely wrong at school. When they were giving out the instruments at primary school, one of the teachers must have said something like, "You can earn money eventually playing this." And I come home and I said to my parents, "Mom, Dad, I'm gonna earn some money to give to you." Like what? I mean, it was very sweet but weird. So I don't know. I think maybe, you know what schools are like at that point. They had like a certain amount of instruments that they could give out. And trumpet was the one that they still had left.
So is that how you ended up on the trumpet?
Yeah.
You weren't drawn to it or anything like that?
No, there were. I knew Dad played French horn. Yeah. My mum's an amazing pianist.
Yeah.
And my brother at the time, I think he started violin, and he's a great singer, and he sings, and he plays piano as well. Right. I mean, that's not his work now, but he does still do that. So I was from a musical family.
Mm.
And then, so I played until whatever.
So you were basically just given a trumpet. Because that's what happened to me. Dad just brought a saxophone one day.
You didn't it wasn't like, which one do you want to play?
No, I wasn't like magically drawn to the saxophone or anything like that. In fact, I wasn't even that bothered about doing music, to be honest. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it was just like, I've grown up with it ever since being a baby. My earliest memory is being at a rehearsal with Dad.
Really?
And the drummer dropped a cymbal on my big toe. I was
And
only
how
a
old were you
toddler.
then?
I was about 2 or 3. And I've still got a split in my toe,
Really?
my big toenail on my right foot.
Do you know which drummer it was?
Yeah.
Ian?
No.
No.
No. But it was my fault because I was getting in his way and messing about while he was trying to set his drums up.
Right.
But that's my earliest memory, is being at rehearsals and just always being around big bands, basically. And I don't think that I was ever like, I really want to play an instrument. It's like, it's my calling in life. It wasn't that. It was just a bit like you. It was like, here's a sax, here's a trumpet, try your hand at that. And I think what drew me in was, I could spend time with my dad doing it, and the social aspect, really. Yeah. That was it at the beginning.
I think that's how it is for a lot of kids, though, isn't it? That's how you get drawn in. I mean, doing orchestras, and then they say there's a trip going to, even if it's just like they put on like an ice skating trip or something like that, and a lot of your mates are doing it, and so you get to hang out with them. It's all about the fun at the start, or it definitely should be. And that's how it was for me, really, when I started.
Yeah. Did your dad ever try to teach you? And did you?
Dad had to teach me
to him?
Every music lesson I had at school. My dad taught me every academic.
Did you go to his school?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
He went to Bridge School.
Oh no! You actually went to your dad's school?
Yeah. Well, I chose to go there because in Brid there was a catchment area, and you got the one that I was supposed to go to. Didn't want to go. I wanted to go where my dad was at that point.
I wanted to go to Northcliffe, but he wouldn't let me go.
Really? Yeah. Maybe he had a different sort of idea about how that would turn out for you, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it was
like
probably.
Maybe you think, oh, well, that's John Ellis's kid and special treatment and all that kind of thing.
Wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes.
But yeah, so I went to his school, and he taught me every academic music lesson right through till, because I did A-level music. So it was A-levels then.
Obviously, I know what that feels like to a certain degree, because, I play lead alto in my dad's band. As you often
that
point,
story should come out.
That should come out. We need to tell people about that. But yeah, so I have always had my dad running the band, apart from when I was at school or music service. So I know what that's like, but not in a school setting. That must even be a bit more.
Well,
so if your dad tells off your mate, do you get it in the? Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah.
Do you get it in the neck?
Yeah. Oi, Tait, your dad's a whatever. Oh, great. Thanks for that. I'll let him know.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
You sort of develop a thick skin for comments and stuff like that. But my dad at school was really well liked.
Yeah, I can imagine.
A lot of people.
He's funny.
Yeah. He had a really great way of, very much like John, like your dad, of tapping into what made someone tick with regards to music. Yeah. So my best mate, who was also one of my best men at my wedding, you could just see that he was into the drums straight away. Just from one one of his music lessons where he had just given the bongos. I think we all got given an instrument to play, and we had to make a tune up or something, and he could see it. And then there was a drum kit that was like at the back of a cupboard somewhere, and he was like, right, we're going to give that to Johnny. Okay. And then Johnny became a drummer after that. Brilliant. So, I mean, it was just stuff like that. He was just great. But he started up this jazz band probably when I was about 15 or 16. And instantly it was like, for me, I knew I was never going to be a sort of a classical trumpet player. I just didn't have that in me. I wasn't good enough in that regard. Not.
Or was it that you just didn't enjoy that music?
I did.
You would have been good enough.
I really did
if you wanted
enjoy
to do
it. I still do. I love listening to classical music or going to see a concert or anything like that. But I think it was more, it felt, when we started playing in this small jazz group, it just felt less, I felt more comfortable playing that music. I think that's why I knew like I didn't feel so uptight playing that music. I felt like it was more in me. I don't know what.
So your first foray into swing and big band wasn't with Dijah, it was with your dad's school band.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
With these, they were called Hal Leonard Jazz Packs.
Yeah. Jazz packs,
and they were like, I mean,
usually like 5 or 6 tracks in one.
Yeah, in one little pack of music.
Good.
And we did.
Did you ever do Malaguena and Leapfrog?
Malaguena, maybe. One I remember was, what was it called? Playing footsie with me under the table.
California Dreaming.
It was
Did you do that one?
It was a cover of She's a Maniac. That was it. Do you know that one? It was like the rock pack.
Yeah.
She's a me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sing. But yeah, so it was in that.
That's from Flashdance, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right. So it was it was all that kind of stuff. I know it's not sort of jazz per se.
No, but it gets kids into the phrasing and the kind of way that a big band is set up, obviously.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So it was that, and then so he could see that I really enjoyed that. Then he had a friend, colleague that worked at Scarborough Jazz Centre, Scarborough Music Centre. What's it called? East Area Schools for Youth Music Centre, it was called. Anyway, so this chap up there was called Nigel Blenkiron, who was really, really important to me at that stage of my sort of like development, I suppose. I had to go and audition for this band, which I hate auditions. Anyway, I auditioned for this band and I got in. And what I didn't realise was it was very much like Donny. They had bands, you could start when you were very young,
different
like
levels
stage band and swing orc, and you progressed. So some of these people have been there since they were a lot younger than me. I went in at 16 or 17. And when I got there on the first day, sort of meeting all these new people that they all knew each other. I was quite nervous when I got there. And and then when they were giving out what chair you were playing, they said, Tom, you're going to be playing first trumpet. And I was like, what? And there was some guy that had been coming up through the bands that thought it was his time for it. Right. And I didn't know how to do it.
But at that time, did you understand the significance of being first trumpet?
No.
Right.
Not at all.
You didn't realise there was a hierarchy and...
Oh, I knew that bit, but I did not know anything about, my technique, the equipment I was playing, my whole like sort of perspective of it. I didn't know what I was doing really. So
people know that don't know this, first trumpet is you're the leader of the trumpet section.
Yes. Well, and everyone's important in a big band.
Yeah.
But
there's a certain role that you have to...
The drummer and the lead trumpet have got to link up like nobody's business. It's got to be a really good relationship. And then from that, everyone else can feed from that. And if you're getting good information from those two people, you're a great deal of the way there. So, but at that point, I was just like, oh, I'm just playing the highest part, you just, and I developed all sorts of bad habits and stuff and sort of scraped my way through being in that band. I think I did it for 2 years. But while I was in that band, obviously Dad could see that I was still really getting into this. He mentioned to me about Doncaster and John. And he said, I'm going to take you over to Doncaster one night. We're just going to go over, listen to the band, it'll have been Jazz Orc, I think. You can John says you can bring your trumpet, but you probably won't be playing. You're just going to just soak it up. Yeah. And I did. I got there and
who was there?
The first time I met Damien.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Was Gaz there?
No.
Right.
I don't think so.
Can you remember the band?
I think Joe Hertzberg was on drums.
Yeah.
John Escreet was probably on keys.
Wow.
I think Cy Cosgrove was playing.
It's a good band.
Yeah, it was mega. But the one thing I do remember is that they were playing someone had done an arrangement of Cooler Shaker's Hush. You know that tune?
Yeah.
I mean,
Tenor feature.
I just remember that was the tune they were playing. And that was one that John said, come get your trumpet out, come sit in the section. And I just couldn't, one thing I couldn't believe was how much noise was, I should say sound, not noise, but it was just so powerful.
Yeah.
And I got such a buzz from that watching that rehearsal. Then I think John gave us some CDs. You just recorded, or Flight of Fancy had not that long just been recorded or something like that. He gave us a couple of CDs to take home to check out. And that was that. He said, let's see if we can get you in the younger bands. And we went home, and I remember Dad was giving me a lift.
Did you play then? Did you play on that first rehearsal?
Yeah, I played it on that tune, on that Cooler Shaker thing. But just in the section. Okay. I was just like, John wanted me to be a part of it, I suppose. And when I got back, Dad was taking me to work. I had like a little part-time job. He was taking me to work in the car, and we put the CD on, and I was just like, it was just amazing. I was just like, I want to be on something like that. Right. And then that means even more to me that being on this last recording, I mean, I did the one before as well, but I suppose there was a lot more hands-on with this one.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's really humbling to see that and go, well, I got to be a part of it.
Yeah, a big part of it. So would you say that first rehearsal coupled with listening to that album is the kind of catalyst for you being, right, I'm going to be a trumpet player?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it had a big part to play in it. Yeah, for sure, definitely. Because from that, then I went to music college from there, and I don't think I'd really decided if I was going to do that. I didn't think I knew that you could go and do that at college, because you know what it's like when you're younger, or it certainly was for me. I was all over the place with what am I going to do, what do I like doing, and there was a point where I think maybe just before I did my grade 8, I was just like, oh, this isn't for me. I wasn't, but then I went past that hurdle and then went to music college, and then from music college, I still carried on going to Doncaster because Doncaster to Leeds is 20 minutes.
And
on
is
the
that
train.
where you met Al?
Yeah, that's where I met Al. Yeah.
So talk to me about Al Wood, because I know Al now through firstly doing a few gigs for him in his Nonnet with like Kayla and
Jim Corrie
and those guys.
Yeah.
Which was a roast, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So that's the first time I met Al. So I didn't have that kind of backstory like the rest of you did. And obviously I know him now. And he would have obviously taught a lot of kids or young people that moved on from Dija to Leeds College like yourself and Gaz and stuff like that, people like that. So, but the great thing is we've got him back on this album.
Yeah.
And he's now co-director essentially of the band, and he's really enjoying it as well. Right? He came in and did his a few months ago, and he was saying about how, you know, because of the passing of Louise a few years ago, the project itself of DJA and the album really got him through a really nasty time. And that's because of your relationship. I mean, that you kind of like brokered that, if you like.
Well, I think that was maybe a combination of conversations I had with John and Al, and I think John could, like, I mean, John and Al go back a long way. I think they've known each other for a long time.
Dad first met Al at a Maynard Ferguson rehearsal when I think Dad sat in on like 18th trumpet or something.
John was playing.
I think so, but Al definitely was. Al definitely was playing.
Yeah,
probably. I don't know what part.
He'll probably because anything.
He played trumpet, trombone, and sax in that band. I think.
I think he did. He definitely played. I remember him telling me a story that he was on trombone. I can't remember what trombone part he played, but he was on trombone, and Pete King was I mean, I'm pretty sure this is correct. Pete King was on
Lead
first
alto,
alto, and Al said that sometimes he had a habit of not turning up for the rehearsal or something. He was so busy, or I don't know. I don't really know the reason why he wasn't there, but he wasn't there. And Al had, because we all know that Al can play pretty much anything, and not just I just play a little bit of this or a little bit of that. Like he's mastered. He just mastered pretty much everything. Really, that's why he was so amazing at college, because he could just demonstrate what he wanted out of you, like that.
I think Dijah benefited massively from Al's knowledge through the fact that he passed stuff on to you guys, and then when you guys were in Dijah bands, that got passed on. Yeah, because Al's knowledge of playing in big bands, like we didn't have that before. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So he must have taught you some amazing stuff.
It was. I mean, Al's. That's why I think it works so well with you, with your dad and Al, because I think they're sometimes they don't say a lot, but you get a lot out of just being around them. Or they say very little, but what they say is really to the point and really important. There's no beating around the bush. They just get straight to the point, and you sort of know where you are really quickly with it. I mean, I've had some tellings off from Al in the years in college.
Was he quite a strict band lead, like an old school type band leader?
Yeah, not like horrible.
Yeah, not like Buddy Rich. Buddy Rich level.
No, not like that. No, crikey. I mean, maybe when he was younger, I could see him being even more fiery, but
I think that was part of being in that scene, though, wasn't it?
Yeah,
was to be a bit of a. I think hard
it was
on people.
Yeah, I think it was different back then. But
So what would you tell you off for? Just being shit on playing trumpet?
Maybe? No. Well, maybe, but no. It just I think when you're at college and there's a lot of sort of bravado at that point. There's a lot of people wanting to make their mark and look what I can do, that kind of thing. And I was just whatever chart it was. We got to the end, and I played what was written on the last chord, and then I played something above because I was like, well, have some of this.
That's what I refer to as lead trumpet disease, by the way.
Disease?
Yeah. You play a note that's not required for longer than it's not even required for.
I know, it's a problem.
No, it is. But I like it. When it's done properly, it's cool.
Yeah, but so I did this on this particular piece, and he just stopped the band, and I was thinking, yeah, just
nailed it,
killed it. And he went, who did that? Who did that there? And I was like, it was me. And he went, if he'd have wanted a top F, he'd have written a top F. Play what's bloody written. And I was just, immediately I felt like this big, but it taught me a lot straight away. I mean, there is a time and a place for stuff to get activated or to think that, like, if it's agreed upon and it's musical, it's always got to be musical, then great. And not all the time, but it taught me a lot straight away then that that's not what this is all about. Lead trumpet's not all about playing the highest note you can. It's more about phrasing, sound, time, giving the information to everybody else in the band so that they can play with you, all that kind of stuff.
But that's the sort of stuff you would have learned through Al.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that same type of training on how to play lead alto in a band because Dad's not a sax player, and the only training we had was maybe listening to other bands or get the odd workshop here and there. So I can imagine like being in Al's band at that, age of 18, 19 would have been amazing.
It was
for your learning.
Yeah, it was. We all looked forward to it. Everybody in that band. Yeah. I think we only rehearsed once a week, but no one was never not there. Yeah. Like everyone was there early, ready to go play this music, and very much like coming to the centre, we were opened up to this massive library of music. Like we were exposed to all these great writers, the writers that we've got on this album. Yeah. all those charts and stuff, and every week you'd come to rehearsal, you have something new and exciting to play through.
Yeah.
And then sometimes Al would do a feature at the front, and we'd all be like, while he was playing,
he was so good.
Yeah, because he could. There was something he used to do called Secret Love. I can't remember the arranger, but I think once he did it on alto, and then maybe a couple of weeks later, he was like, "I'm going to do it on bass trumpet," like just totally different.
Bass trumpet,
yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah,
I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. It's like sounds a little bit like
Valve trombone.
Yeah, valve trombone, but it's you had a Holton. It was a Holton instrument for all you trumpet geeks. So he was just like, I think I'll do it on bass trumpet. This what? And it was like, it's just amazing. Yeah, we used to love playing that chart.
Yeah, he's a genius, isn't he?
Yeah, amazing.
It's so nice having him in the album and directing. And also, was it his birthday on the second day?
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah. His 80th.
Yeah, it was his 80th.
Yeah, we were down there.
I think we got him a Colin the Caterpillar.
Yeah.
Cake.
And a bottle of whiskey.
I mean, for me, that's not a bad way to spend your 80th birthday in a studio with a band, with your ex-students as well.
Yeah.
And I know, because I've spoken to Al about this, he loves the fact that some of his ex-students like yourself and Gaz and people like that are now in this band that he's involved with.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He was at your wedding, you know?
Yeah.
So obviously, he did something right in that band, obviously.
He's like my mentor, I suppose, like, for sure. Like, I think when we were at college, you always wanted Al to want you around or like you. Do you know what I mean? You looked up to him a lot. I mean, I had lots of people. I mean, there was my trumpet teacher at college. I talked about him. He was. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for him. Simon Barnes.
Right.
I went to college. I wanted to be a jazz trumpet player. I wanted to be a Chet Baker or a Miles Davis or something like that at that point. Chet Baker was still is one of my favourites, but that's what I wanted to do. And Simon was fantastic jazz player, but he would probably say he was more a commercial trumpet player. Yeah. He could play fantastic jazz, but he had ridiculous chops, and he was super strong trumpet player. And he sort of said to me in one of my first lessons, he was like, "This is great, the jazz side of it, but if you don't have any kind of chops, you won't work. You won't work."
Yeah.
I don't know if that's totally true, but
I think it's probably because I mean, we all know that it's difficult to make money out of jazz anyway. So unless you're a world-class player or an artist in your own right, you're not going to make a career purely out of jazz. Yeah. So that means you've got to do show work or function stuff or TV stuff, studio stuff, which means you got to be able to read anything and your technique's got to be on point. Yeah. So he's right.
Well, I mean, he was a massive influence for me. So there were certain people around the college that were really important, like Al and Simon. There's a chap called Trevor Vincent, who was a ridiculous sort of composer, arranger, did loads of stuff, taught composition at the college.
So Tony was it at Leeds then? Oh yeah, Tony Faulkner, I remember him. Was it at Leeds that you thought, right, I'm not going to go down the jazz route per se, I'm going to go down, as he called it, commercial trumpet route?
I don't know. It just felt like there was like a smooth transition for me into, I think when you finish in college, I mean, this is why Al's wife, Louise, was so good. She really helped the musicians get out into the business.
Really?
Yeah, because you'd get people that maybe didn't have the budget for their gigs, so they would call the college and say, "Have you got any students that would be up to coming to do this gig for whatever it was?" Yeah. She would make sure that work got spread out with people that wanted to do it, and I think that's firstly how we started getting out into the big wide world, I suppose.
I didn't know that about
through Louise. Yeah, she did a lot of that. She was amazing, and obviously Al. I mean, there was one gig that I had no business being on really, But it was a huge learning experience. So one of probably my favourite trumpet player on the planet is Bobby Shew.
Okay.
Probably a lot of people's favourite trumpet player. But Bobby was doing what was billed as the UK All-Stars big band gig. This is 2005 or something like that. And anyway, trumpet section, there was one person that, for whatever reason, they had to drop out. They had a show or something like that. And Al had pushed to get me in for some experience. So I ended up sitting on third or fourth trumpet in the section.
With your idol out front?
With my idol out front.
That's amazing.
Al was in the sax section. The sax section was Pete King, Alan Barnes, Ben Clapworthy, Alan Skidmore, and Al.
Right.
It was it was scary. The whole band was scary, and the guy on lead trumpet was a guy called Greg Bowen, who was amazing. One of the kindest people as well. He was a super lovely guy. And Bobby out the front,
and you're on fourth trumpet, thinking,
why am I here? What am I doing here? What am I doing here? But I sort of got through, and I took all the experience from it. It was one of the most amazing gigs. But I wouldn't have done that gig if it wasn't for Al. Yeah. You get those, and I know that kind of thing goes on now. That's what it's inbuilt into musicians. We want to help each other and
give someone else the leg up. You did it with me when you got me on that Motown Review gig.
Oh, we did.
That was still to this day probably, if you're going to go in terms of like notoriety of the artist you work with, that's probably the biggest thing I've done. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
One of the best things I've ever done. I mean, the people on that were like Percy Sledge. I bought Percy Sledge a cheese sandwich with a can in Blackpool.
Matt Ball helped him up the stairs at some theatre because the lift was broken. I can remember that. And they'd put him, they'd given him his dressing room right at the top.
That was at Blackpool.
Oh, it was Blackpool, was it?
I think it was at the Winter Gardens.
Yeah. Right.
We played
Clang.
Buddy Williams was the drummer, who basically played on David Sanborn's live album, which is one of my favourite albums ever.
Yeah.
And he'd played with Michael Jackson. In fact, when we walked in, he's like, I remember playing here with Whitney. And me and you were like, what? So thanks for that. The artists on that were Frida Payne, Band of Gold.
Yeah. Stylistics.
Yeah.
All those.
Peebo Bryson. Yeah. And also the stories that came out of it. There was one guy, he was just a tech guy. He was like setting up the lights or the PA or whatever. And we got talking. We were at that, is it the Vermont Hotel in Newcastle? Rehearsals in Newcastle. And I was chatting to him outside. And he was saying, I used to, an American guy, and he was like, he started talking about how he knew Stevie Wonder or something. I'm like, oh, how do you know him? He said, well, I've got I think he said his sister said Stevie Wonder had he had a crush on my sister.
What?
Yeah. And I'm like, right. He went, her name was Cherie. And the song Cherie Amour is about this guy's sister.
Oh, God, blimey.
It's just some of these stories that came out. Yeah. I mean, some of the stories that came out. Do you remember when we got off a bus and we got off a bus and I think Buddy was there? Or it was the bass player from P-Funk. Was it
Stanley Banks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, is that Tito? And basically the Jackson 5 bus had stopped at the same services on the M6 near Cardiff. And these two gangs of
outside
musicians,
of Greg's or something.
Just started hanging out and high-fiving each other. And they were playing in the same night as us in Cardiff with the Jacksons, minus Michael at the time. And it was just like, we were just like, what is going on? Talk about thinking I shouldn't be here. Like, what am I doing here? I mean,
those rhythm section players were there's nothing like it.
Do you remember was it Stanley used to play bass and he'd tap
the tambourine
with his foot. So he'd play tambourine and bass at the same time.
They mic'd it up as well. I remember he had his foot through the tambourine and they mic'd it up and he
used to juice everything. He wouldn't eat solid food. He just brought his own juicer on tour with him. But some of the stories...
Yeah, we got him into Snakebite and Blacks.
Did you?
Remember that? Yeah. They were all drinking it. It was Snakebite and Black, yeah. And they loved it. They'd never heard of it. Was Morris Mo Pleasure on that as well? Yeah,
Mo Pleasure, yeah.
Morris Pleasure.
What a name that is.
Yeah.
Mo Pleasure. Yeah. Yeah, because I think just before that the Jackson tour at the O2 had just been cancelled because he fell ill.
Right.
And obviously subsequently passed away, but he was supposed to do that. So
Mo was.
Yeah, he was like Michael Jackson's MD. He's in that film, This Is It.
Yeah.
And he was now our MD, and I'm like, what? Like, I'm so out of my depth here.
He's in London now.
Is he?
Yeah, he works in London.
Buddy, the drummer, about 6 months later, we stayed in touch, and I went to New York for a weekend, and he got me free tickets to the Lincoln Center to see, I forget who it was now, some big jazz star. He's like, oh, I'll put some tickets on the door for you. I mean, just next level stuff. So thank you for that. Talking about, what am I doing here sort of thing.
Oh, well, I think we've all had those
Temptations.
Yeah.
I got to play the tenor solo on Papa Was a Rolling Stone. And the Temptations are dancing and pointing at me. Yeah. And I'm just like,
they
amazing.
They had a different outfit for every show. They didn't wear the same one twice. And they had like had to bring it all with them on the plane. So it was like suitcases of this stuff. And they were like extravagant sequins and you know what their suits are like. It was mental. And then they must have had about 40 suits or something like that. It's mad.
I mean, there's so many stories like that and about stuff that we've done purely just because of starting in a band when we were kids.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'd love to get you back at some point and talk about the album with Ruben. So if we can get you back up another time.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the album. I wanted today to be more about your experience with Dijar and DJA and why you play the trumpet. But getting back to how we started, I've asked everybody that's come on this podcast about, what they think about the kind of experiences with Doncaster Youth Jazz Association, how it's helped them, but also, and I think we've done that, but also where they see the future of music education, because you don't teach too much, do you?
I have done in the past, but from work commitments, it's sort of like it took a back seat.
I want to get onto this new show you're just about to get on. I want to talk about the pressure thing, but basically, in fact, we'll do that at the end. So you told me the day after your wedding, you just got your dream gig, which was Ace.
Well, I don't know. I mean, to be working in London is something that I think loads of people aspire to be doing, and having something that's regular and you're working on the West End.
Which I always wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't know of the show for a long time. I didn't even know it was a show. I mean, my now wife is trying to get me to watch the film. Apparently, it's a musical that's based on the film. So I've not seen the film, so I'm probably going to be pushed into watching that in the next few weeks. But
so what is the show?
Yeah, the show's Mean Girls. Son at the Savoy. Get your tickets now.
Matinees on Sundays.
And we just started rehearsing for it on Thursday this week.
You were saying before we started rolling that, because I was asking you about that, because I know that it's your next big thing. We were talking about the psychology of being in a pit on a show band, because I've never done it. I've done like amateur dramatic stuff and I've sat in on some shows, but I've never actually played, I don't think, on a proper West End show. But I've always thought, that is pressure. Like if I'm on a wedding gig in a band and I play a bum note, which I usually do at least once a night.
We all play.
No one's going to hear it, really. The band might, but some punters on a dance floor. But you can't do that in a show.
Well, I mean, it's a very different atmosphere being sat in a pit like that.
Is it pressure? Do you feel pressure?
Yeah. I think everyone does. It's there are all sorts of factors. What's the music like that you're playing?
Yeah.
What sometimes some of the pads that you play, you might have certain parts in there that are, I don't know, tricky for your instrument. So you'll be thinking about that. Or sometimes you can have something that's quite quite simple to play, but that can have its crux as well because
you
switch off.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I switch off for the camera.
Yeah.
But if you're just playing semitones for 5 minutes, it's quite difficult sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, there's a pressure, and the pressure is to be. You need to be as close to perfect every show you play because it is copy and paste every day. People notice if there's mistakes or this changes or that changes, even very little things. Like if you were to play a big band chart, rehearse it for a gig and then not play it for a couple of months, then come back to it, chances are, even if there are little mistakes here and there, they're not gonna bug you that much because you've had space from that music. But when you're playing it every day and with the same people, most of the time, I mean, people get depths and that kind of thing, but they get noticed, I suppose. And so you're always, particularly as a trumpet player, you're always fighting the consistency part of it.
Yeah.
Trying to be as consistent as you can all the time.
And stamina.
Yeah. I mean, those two go hand in hand, really. So yeah, and being musical as well. That's something that can go stale if you're playing the same music over and over and over. Some shows you start and you can think, how I'm never going to get bored of this.
Really?
Yeah, because it's so great, the music. Right. I'm never going to get bored of this. I mean, there's some shows that I've done that I'm not saying I get bored of the shows. I always try and find the consistency aspect is my goal. Once I get past that, I've played it enough times or whatever. But always trying to stay musical sometimes can be tough if you just copying and pasting it. So
I get that.
It's important that I think we all working in that industry, we're all fighting those sort of those mind games, I suppose.
Yeah,
your brain gets in the way rather than your technique or anything like that.
I mean, I'm not a trumpet player, obviously. I think we don't have the issues that brass players have with stamina and chops. Like you can pick your sax up after 3 days not playing and you don't really feel like your embouchure's gone. I mean, your tone will have gone a bit, but that'll come back in 20 minutes if you work on the right stuff. But you don't think like, oh God, I can't play. So we don't have that problem. But one thing I'm highly aware of is the splitting notes thing doesn't really exist on a sax. You can miss pitch with your throat. I was doing it the other day actually quite a lot because my reed got soft and I've got a smaller mouthpiece than I normally have. I was overblowing and these weird sounds were coming out, but I can fix that. Yeah. But for trumpet, like, I think that's your nemesis, isn't it? But then do you do this? So that I had a chat once with Stugger about this. I'll be playing in a big band or whatever on a wedding and I make a mistake, right? And instead of just letting it go and concentrate, I'm thinking about the mistake. So I'm like, oh, I made a mistake. Then it's like, oh shit, there's another one. You do another one, another one. And after a while, it doesn't take much for your head to just go completely. And there's been some times in France, you know, when you're tired because you've been drinking or partying or doing loads of gigs. I've had times in France when I've had almost like a mental breakdown on a gig and I've thought, you need to really get your shit together here, Ellis, because you're gonna spook out soon. Did you ever have that kind of level of that whole making a mistake and then thinking about it for the rest of the piece or whatever? You can drive yourself. You can drive yourself nuts depending on how poor the mistake is. But talking about split notes, I suppose maybe the closest thing to getting that feeling is if you squeak on a clarinet or you squeak on something. And it's complete. It comes completely out of nowhere, doesn't it? It's like it's almost out of your control. Yeah. Sometimes, like a lot of the time, like split notes, you can be thinking, "I'm really on this here. I'm really like, I'm in the zone. I'm really on it," and it'll just catch you off guard, and you don't even know why it's happened, and it's really frustrating. But I think you have to live in the moment. Yeah. You can't think about it's really tough. It's really tough. It's like a metaphor for life, isn't it? Yeah. Don't think too far in the future. Don't think about what's coming up. Don't think about what's been.
got to just stay with what you're doing, because if you do start doing those things,
game over.
You stop being musical again. You start thinking in a different way.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we're recording the album. It was hard music. It was hard music.
I know.
Yeah, but so we have a lot of that in there, I suppose.
But we get to do it again on an album. You don't do that on a show.
You do, but I mean, we're also up against it time-wise, aren't we? I know we had 2 days to record that, but I can remember that maybe the end of the first day, and we hadn't filled our quota, so to speak, for how many tunes we want. I think we were supposed to do 6, and we did 5.
Yeah.
So that meant
we were behind.
Yeah.
For the following day.
Yeah, we had 7 to do in the second day. Something like that. I'm pretty sure that's how it went down.
Yeah. It's a great album, mate.
Yeah, it's so good, isn't it?
And also, we're not going to go into it now, but the level of input that you and Ruben and, James and Gars, and sorry for forgetting people, but you were the main guys.
A lot of people that are important
but certainly post-production, you and Ruben put a massive shift in. We'll talk about another time. We'll get you up. We'll talk about the tracks individually. Yeah. Because I think that people would like to hear about that. Yeah. I would anyway. Yeah. But I'm going to wrap it up now because we've been twice as long as
How long have we been now?
About an hour nearly. Yeah. Do you enjoy it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
really
good.
Did. Yeah. Was it all right?
Yeah. I knew you'd be good. Yeah, because you just talk for Britain, don't you?
Can't stop talking once you get me going.
You should have a podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
what would you call it?
Don't know.
Tait's tattle.
Tait's tackle.
Tattle, not your tackle. You tattle. Tattling about
Tattle?
stuff. Yeah, talking.
Talky Tait.
I think we'll sign off there. Tom's talking about his tackle.
Talky Tait.
Talky Tait. Talky Tait's tattle.
There you go. Watch this space.
Right, let's go. I'm hungry. Want some food?
Yeah.
Right. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.